My name is Jennifer Antonetti, and I'm the band director at Topeka High School in Topeka, Kansas. I'm so excited that you are preparing your music for the middle level honor band for KBA. What an honor. So I'm playing bari sax today, and I love playing low saxophones. Tenor and bari are some of my favorite. There's a couple of things that I suggest doing to warm up before I get into a practice session. One of those is to go ahead and play chromatic scale. So you can pick any note that you want to start on. I usually try to pick something kind of in the middle, not too high and not too low. Play to the highest note you can play on your instrument, and then to the lowest note you can play on your instrument, and then back to the middle. This kind of does a couple things. It helps us to be able to check all of our notes to make sure that they're opening all the way, make sure we don't have any sticky keys, because sometimes our G sharp can be sticky and the low C sharp can be sticky. So we want to make sure that we're checking to make sure all of our notes sound good and work well before we get into our practice session. So here is my chromatic scale. I like to just start on the note middle C and then go up first. It's also good to practice kind of slurring up and tonguing down so that we can test out different articulations on our note as well. That's a good way to just check to make sure everything works. This baritone saxophone does have a high F sharp. Not all of them do, and this one also has the low A. So if your instrument has that, make sure to test it out. If it doesn't, you can just skip that in the chromatic scale. All right, so then the first song we're going to look at is the song called El Camino de Anaheim by Steve Graves. Now, Steve Graves is your clinician for this band. So he is also a composer. He is the clinician, and he's from California. Anaheim is in California. So this is kind of, you can see at the top, it says, dedicated to the enduring spirit of the musicians and band directors of the Anaheim Union School District. This song, I approach any song by starting with the STAR sight reading method. So if you haven't heard of it before, I'm going to go through it now. That first S stands for signature. So I'm going to look at key signature and time signature. I see the time signature right at the beginning is 4/4. If you need to go ahead and grab your pencil and circle that, you should do that right now. The next letter in the STARS sight reading system is T for tempo. Now at the beginning, I don't see a tempo on this, but I listened to the recording and I found that my tempo was about quarter note equals 120. So grab your pencil and write at the very top, quarter note equals 120 for 120. Then that way when you're practicing with your metronome, you know what you can set it to. The next letter is A for articulations and accidentals. We can see a lot of articulations right at the very beginning. I see staccatos, I see accents, I see some of those more towards the end as well. And then for accidentals, I do see one accidental, and it's in the third to last measure, measure 45. I have a G sharp. So that's definitely one of the reasons why I wanted to test out my G sharp on my chromatic scale, because I'm definitely going to use that note. And then rhythms. So this song has a lot of syncopated rhythms. Syncopation is where we accent the upbeat. And we see that just in the first two measures even. 1 and 3. There's an accent on the and of 1. And then there's actually also an accent on count 3. So we want to get those articulations in there with the rhythms. Just try the first 2 measures with me. It sounds like this. Listen first, and then you can go back and try. Now go ahead and try it on your own. Pause the video if you need to do that. All right, welcome back. You just tried the first couple of measures on your own. There's a few rhythms in here that repeat a whole lot. So when we saw that 1 and 3, we see that also in measure 12. We see that also in measure 13. There's a few other rhythms I want to look at. Measure 3 is very, very similar. It just goes 1 and 3, 4. So try just measure 3. 1, 2, measure 3. Did you try the accents too? Awesome. All right, look at measure 4. Measure 4 has a half note and it's tied to an eighth note. That really means to hold the half note full value and stop the note right on count 3. The way I do this is I grab my pencil and I write -3 above that eighth note. So I know to stop the sound right on count 3. Another rhythm that is related to measure 3 is the stuff that we have starting at measure 14. It's just staccato now. Instead of accented and longer, we still have 1 and 3, 4, just like measure 3. Here was measure 3. And measure 4, same rhythm, just articulated notes and slightly different notes. Here's measure 14. Do you hear the difference with the articulation? Let's try measure 14, 15, and 16. It's the same rhythm, the same articulation on some different notes. Starting on measure 14. 1, 2, ready, go. Then measure 17 is just a measure of quarter notes. Measure 18, we go back to that staccato rhythm. And measure 21, it changes a little bit. 1 and 3. 1 and 3. That's the same rhythm that we had in measure 1 and 2. We just put different notes with it. So go back and try this section from measure 14 to measure 21. Pause the video and try it on your own. Welcome back. Here's measure 22. Measure 22 has mostly half notes and quarter notes. There's not as much articulation here, so it's a little bit more smooth and connected. Here's measure 22. And then we go back into that very articulated style. So from measure 22 to measure 28, this is a really pretty melody line. You get to sound great on the bari sax. When we get to measure 30, you see the word marcato. Marcato is kind of a shortcut word that just means everything is accented. So we're going to pretend like we see a bunch of accents all the way to the end. Here's measure 30, and we're going to go all the way to the end. 1, 2, 30, and. loud and very accented at the end. So we hear some of that melody come back in measure 38 through 43, kind of like what we had from 22 to 28, but now instead of being smooth, it is much more accented with that mercato. Right, so hopefully that helps you out on El Camino de Anaheim. The next song we're going to look at is Destiny Fanfare. Now, Destiny Fanfare should sound bright and triumphant and epic. It should be very light staccatos, and there's kind of a couple different sections of this song as well. We have a very light staccato section and some accents starting in measure 12 where we're backgrounds, and then there's a kind of smooth section in the middle, and then a lot of articulations and rhythms towards the end. Let's go ahead and talk through our sight reading method on this song, Destiny Fanfare. So we look first at our key signature and time signature. I see 4/4 again, and as I'm looking over, I see that I'm no flats or no sharps right at the beginning. Then I look for tempo, T. Here I see our allegro at the beginning, and quarter note equals 138 beats per minute. So this is going to be pretty fast, quick, and light. A is for articulations and accidentals. I see a whole lot of articulations, especially starting in, even at the beginning, and then in measure 5, all the way to measure 29. Then we do start to see some accidentals. So make sure you notice in measure 15, you have B flat, and that lasts for the whole measure. You see that again in measure 23, B flat, that lasts for the whole measure. And then in 27, some B flats as well. Now in measure 30, we play C, B natural, and that's just a reminder that our B natural is in the key signature, but the last note we played was B flat. So B natural just means regular B. There are a couple more articulations towards the end, measure 47 all the way to the end, and a few more accidentals as well. Check out measure 62, you have F sharp, and then C sharp, and then in measure 63, C natural, regular C. So we want to make sure we get that. Next are rhythms. So the very beginning and then all the way to measure 29 is very rhythmic. We have to make sure to keep counting. 1, 2, and 3. 4 and 1, 2 and 3, 4. Check out measure 14. Let's count this together. 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, and 3. 4 and 1, 2 and 3, 4, 1, 2 and 3. 4 and 1, 2 and 3, 4, 1, 2 and 3. 4 and 1, 2 and 3, 4, 1, 2 and 3. 4 and 1, 2 and 3, 4. That repeats a whole lot, so we're going to get very good at it. Let's go ahead and play starting at measure 14. Here we are at mezzo piano, so we're just getting the rhythms in our brain right now. Because S, the last part of sight reading stars, is for signs and symbols. We don't have any repeat signs. We don't have anything that would kind of change our tempo in any way, so it's pretty much straightforward. Here's 14. 1, 2, ready, go. Excellent. Now, did you make sure to get the F natural? Sometimes on Bari sax, we're used to playing F sharp, but this song uses F natural. So make sure we're using 1, 2, 3, and first finger here. Now that rhythmic part continues, and at measure 22, it's a little bit louder. So let's play starting at square 22. 1, 2, ready, play. This is the part that's a little bit different. So starting at measure 30, we have a day crescendo, and then this part smooth and connected all the way until the end of measure 44. When we get to measure 45 and 46, we're going to add our articulations back in. Start at measure 30 with the smooth and connected part. Measure 30. 1, 2, ready, play. Where the accents came in. Hopefully you also noticed one more thing. In the smooth part from measure 31, especially to measure 44, I did what's called playing the contour. So when notes kind of go up in pitch, I also play a little bit louder. And when notes go down in pitch, I play a little bit softer. You would have especially heard that in measure 38. I added a slight crescendo going to square 39. Try that for yourself. Pause the video. Welcome back. At measure 47, you have the melody for 2 measures. It's all the low instruments with the melody. Go ahead and grab your pencil and draw a star right there by measure 47 because you are the star, especially for those 2 measures. Then when we go back to measure 49, that's going to be more background. So here's measure 47. 1, 2, ready, play. All right, let's try that again. Make sure you're playing nice and forte with accents. Here's measure 47 and 48. 1, 2, ready, play. Excellent. Now, at measure 49 through measure 55, this goes to more of our backgrounds like we have done before. Like this, almost the same as what we did at measure 14. Start at measure 49 and let's go ahead and play to the end. Watch out for those accidentals in measure 62, 3 notes from the end. Here's measure, actually let's start at measure 47. With our important cool part. Here's measure 47. To the end. 1, 2, ready, go. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Awesome. All right, next, let's go ahead and look at the next song, which is Softly Speaks the Night by Brittin Chambers. Softly Speaks the Night is going to be smooth and connected. Let's walk through and talk through our stars. First, I look at the key signature and the time signature. I notice this is in 4/4 again, and I have an F sharp at the beginning. However, it changes. At square 35, my F sharp goes away and it becomes F naturals. So if you need to grab your pencil and pause the video and write in where you have F sharps and where you have F naturals, do that now. Okay, welcome back. Next is T for tempo. This is an adagio tempo. Adagio is not fast. It's smooth and kind of medium slow. It's not really, really slow, but a little slow. You see quarter note equals 76. It doesn't stay the same the whole time. Did you notice that? Find measure 33. In measure 33 on count 4, it says RIT for ritardando. That means slower. But what it really means is watch the conductor, because you don't know how slow or how fast it's going to go. And then at 35, you see a tempo. That just means go to the regular tempo that you did right at the beginning. Go ahead and grab your pencil and circle the ritardando at measure 33 and the a tempo at measure 35. Then at measure 47, do the same thing. Circle the ritardando and then circle the a tempo at measure 48. Now, if you would also like to draw googly eyes or glasses or write the word watch, that will help you to remember to watch your conductor. The next letter in the sight reading stars is A. So check out our articulations and accidentals. We do not have much of either of those things. In measure 31, we do see an accidental for an F natural, and that's actually to help us get to our new key when we get to square 35. So if you would like to go ahead and circle that note, and remember that F natural lasts for the whole measure. So it will be on the half note, the quarter note, and the first eighth note. Those will all be F naturals. R stands for tricky rhythms. Are there any tricky rhythms? Well, maybe not really. The hardest part is going to be to make sure you continue counting and try to make sure you don't break up phrases and don't breathe on the bar lines. Try to make sure to connect your phrases and break your rhythms in a way that makes sense with the music. The last S is for signs and symbols. We do not see a whole lot of those except for a few dynamics. A couple of other fun features though. In measure 17, 18, 19, and 20, your notes are really small. Those are Q notes. And you see right above measure 17 the word tuba. You don't play tuba? If this song was played in a band that did not have tubas, you, the bari sax players, would make sure that you could play those notes. Sometimes conductors still want you to play those notes even if you do have tubas, so make sure you raise your hand and ask your conductor if they would like you to play the Q notes that you have. That's a great opportunity for you to ask a question. All right, let's go ahead and play this nice and slow, smooth and connected. We're using a nice daw, kind of tonguing the whole time. It shouldn't ever be too aggressive because this is almost like a lullaby. Here's the beginning, and we're going to stop at measure 13. 1, 2, ready, play. Nice and smooth and connected. Let's jump ahead to square 21. We're going to stop at square 29. 1, 2, ready, play. starting to run out of air, some good places would be to breathe would be in measure 23 and 25 after the dotted half note, but before the quarter note. All right, next jump ahead to measure 31. This is where we have that F natural. Let's see if we can play from 31 to the end. We're going to try to include the ritardando, the a tempo, make sure we're nice and forte when we get to 35. And on the very last note, 48, 49, and 50, you're going to carry that and let the sound continue all the way until count 1 of 50. Go ahead and write -1 or off on 1 for measure 50. Here's all the way back at measure 31 on starting on our F natural. 1, 2, ready, play. Two, two, three, four. And we want to definitely make sure to freeze at the very end so that our sound keeps ringing. All right, hopefully that helps you out on Softly Speaks the Night. For the last song, we're looking at Dark Ride. Dark Ride by Randall Standridge kind of starts out mysterious and creepy, and then it gets fast, and then it gets faster. Let's talk through our stars. Look at those signs and symbols right at the beginning, or our signatures right at the beginning. We see 4, 4, and then we see 2 sharps at the beginning, F sharp and C sharp. So if you need to go through your music and write sharp signs next to all of your F's and all of your C's, please do that now. Take a couple of seconds to do that. Pause the video, write them in. All right, welcome back. You just wrote in all of your sharps, so we can make sure that we get those. Now we already a little bit talked about tempo. It starts out at quarter note equals 72, and then at 11, it is fast. Quarter note equals 160. And then it gets faster. There's an accelerando starting at measure 48. And the accelerando goes in measure 48, 49, 50, 51. When we get to square 52, we're at quarter note equals 172. It is faster all the way to the end. Next, articulations and accidentals. Well, there's a lot of both in here. The composer Randall Standridge, he knows what he wants for articulations. He writes in a whole lot of them. The staccatos need to be sneaky and creepy and light and kind of spooky. Even though it's going to be fast, we want it to be sneaky and light. So we'll make sure to keep all of our articulations kind of sneaky and light. Also check out all of your accidentals. There's a lot of places where we have accidentals. Find measure 21. Measure 21 starts on C sharp because of our key signature, and then we hear C and E sharp. What the heck is an E sharp? It's the same note as F, same note as F natural. So it's going to go C sharp, F natural, C sharp, F natural. If it helps you to write in an F above the E sharp, that will make sure that you get that in the right spot. We see that also in measure 25. We see that also in measure 38. We see that also in measure 42 and measure 45. We see a lot of these E sharps, so make sure you pause the video right now and write them in. All right, welcome back. Next is tricky rhythms, any tricky rhythms. So this is mostly quarter notes and eighth notes the whole time. So we just got to make sure that we can keep that going. Now at the very beginning, we do see stagger breathe. There's not very many people who could possibly hold 10 measures at a slow tempo without taking a breath. So for you and the people around you, make sure that you take turns breathing, not on bar lines, so that we keep the sound going. There's no extra signs or symbols, so this one is pretty straightforward. We're not gonna practice the really long 10 measures of whole notes, so find measure 11, and this is where we're starting. 1, 2, 1, 2, ready, and. 2, 3. Did you make it? We were about ready to repeat. This would be a great time to go ahead and circle your repeat sign in measure 26 and back to measure 19. I forgot to say that when we were going through signs and symbols. So go ahead and circle that right now. Okay, so that whole part was very light and sneaky. Then at measure 28, it's a little bit more smooth. And then we're going to do a crescendo going into measure 36. Here is measure 28 to 36. 1, 2, ready, and. And then this part is going to be a lot like what you had back at measure 15. The different part is when we get a little bit faster and a little bit faster, all the way to the end. So here's measure 44, all the way to the end. 1, 2, ready, and. And that's the end. You did it. Have fun practicing. This is super awesome music. You'll be great. Practice at slow tempos. Do your best. Get a good sound. And you're going to have a total blast. Bye.